Darwinian evolution. Junk science.
So what we're looking into is Darwinian evolution, or origin of the species. And specious simply means having the ring of truth or plausibility, but actually fallacious. In other words, false. That's Darwinian evolution. Everybody believes it, not really everybody, but it permeates the culture. So people think it's true, but it really isn't. Well, as we look at this, we see that Charles Darwin wrote a book called Survival of the Fittest, and it was published in 1859. His theory put forward in the book he called natural selection. Sometimes it's called Survival of the Fittest. And his book on the origin of species, which is really not the whole title. We talked about that in our last program. But nevertheless, it's telling you what he's really saying, that the origin of species came about through this survival of the fittest natural selection process, and that this is the process that drives evolution. That is the main idea of Darwinian evolution. It says, Darwin has been described as one of the most influential figures in human history. His book on the origin of species went on sale 22 November 1859. His theory is simply stated in the introduction. This is how he puts it.
As many more individuals of each species are born than can possibly survive, and as, consequently, there's a frequently reoccurring struggle for existence, it follows that any being, if it vary however slightly in any manner profitable to itself under the complex and sometimes varying conditions of life, will have a better chance of surviving, and thus be naturally selected. From the strong principle of inheritance, any selected variety will tend to propagate its new and modified form.
It doesn't sound that bad, does it? Actually, it was a radical teaching, because basically what it's saying is the thing that advances any species is competition and death. So instead of holding up life as the important thing, it's all about death. Death of almost everybody except those who are superior, the fittest. It's all about their survival. An interesting thing about the Darwinian theory is that it is amoral. And this is not just what critics say about it. This is what evolutionists say about it. It's the nature of the theory, having no moral quality, non-moral. That's really one of the tenets of evolution. There is no morality. That's what it's really all about. There's no morality. There's just this natural animal process that goes on. Survival of the fittest is everything. There is no morality. It is amoral. Now, this has been explained by some evolutionary writers. Francis Crick explains it this way. The astonishing hypothesis is that you, your joys, your sorrows, your memories, and your ambitions, your sense of personal identity and free will are in fact no more than the behavior of a vast assembly of nerve cells and their associated molecules. All of that you associate with being a person, being able to make choices, moral decisions. What this is telling you about that, all of that is an illusion and nothing more than a residue of animal instinct. You're just another kind of animal. That's all. And morality doesn't really exist. Michael Roos put it this way: there is no ultimate foundations for morality, just a biological illusion of objectivity. So, in other words, morals do not even exist, according to the Darwinian thinking. Well, this has some implications. And we talked about discerning things according to spiritual principles. Well, if you're talking about origins, the place to look for those spiritual principles is in the book of Genesis. Let's compare what those principles tell us compared to what Darwinian evolution tells us. One of the first things you find in the book of Genesis is that an intelligent and loving creator, whom people call God, purposefully created the universe. Darwin says there is no God. Everything evolved through mindless, natural processes. That's how it got here. There's no purpose. It just happened all by chance. Well, here's another principle. The earth and everything on it was created for the use and blessing of man. This you find right in the first few chapters of Genesis. Darwinian evolution says the earth is here by chance with no direct connection to man's welfare. Well, here's another principle you find in Genesis. Man was created in the image of God. Darwin says man is an animal that evolved by natural selection. Now, there are certain implications of these two opposing ideas. For example, Genesis would tell you that all human life is equally sacred before God because all sorts of people from every ethnicity are all descended from the same parents and equally in the image of God. However, evolution does not agree. Evolution says nothing is sacred, including human life. As a matter of fact, you have to have a lot of death for evolution to occur. What follows from the book of Genesis is that all people are endowed with certain unalienable rights from God. According to Darwin, survival of the fittest is the only rule. Genesis would have us believe that the non-animal endowments of all humans, such as free will, morals, and appreciation of beauty, reflect the image of our Creator. Darwinism would tell us that free will and morals are just an illusion, that everything about man is nothing more than the result of mechanistic biological processes. That's inspiring, isn't it? All humans are subject to their Creator and are required to keep His moral requirements. This is very clear immediately in the book of Genesis. Darwin says, your only God is you yourself. Do what you will do to survive and thrive. Why? because survival is the only rule. Winning is everything. Well, then we have the problem, though, of suffering and evil, good and bad. What about that? Genesis says that came into the world through sin. That it's not a good thing and it's not a permanent thing and it's going to be done away with. Darwin says there is no good or evil. Ultimately, survival of the fittest is the only rule. Also implied in Genesis is that there will be a judgment of all people in the world to come for the things they did. Darwin says there is no judgment, there's no afterlife, so get whatever you can get now because this is it. So we have the spiritual principles of the scriptures and we have this deterministic, amoral doctrine of Darwin. I don't think you could have two extremes more different from each other, could you?
Was this video informative? Remember to hit the like button to help spread the word and share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you'll get updates on all the great content coming from Eliyahu Ben David.